like, what the
Yeah.
what do you do away from like the training to use like meditation, visualization, things like that to become sort of like the cerebral assassin almost that you've become? Do you use things like that to deal with the anxiety, all the nerves that you originally felt as you were getting in and evolving your skills?
Um, yeah, meditation was an important thing. I'm not sure I understood it so much when I was fighting, to be honest. But after I retired, I got more into meditation. I took a psychology course. It was like I think 5 years that I was doing it, and I learned a lot about breathing techniques and calming the mind and making that mind body connection, and that helped me a lot. So much can be calmed down with your breath.
Mhm.
And I think it helps in both getting your heart rate down, but also sending oxygen to the whole of your body and not just certain specific parts, and not being so tense when you experience adversity, relaxing, being composed, and also visualization. For me, visualization isn't visualizing me beating everybody, or visualizing me getting my hand raised at the end of a match or something like that. That's not what I consider visualization. Visualization is like, how would I want to see myself competing? And what that does is it gives me a nice mental picture for how I want to execute my jujitsu, or how I want to execute my game, or how I want to move when it comes down to doing what it is that I'm doing. And those end up becoming nice, um, I guess, ways of seeing how um, I want to move, and seeing if that is aligned with what I'm doing with my training, if that makes sense. And I used to do this when I was fighting. I would look at guys like a Cow in Muay Thai, or Fedor Emelianenko when he was fighting. You look at his calmness and his composure, or both of their calmness and composure, and how they fight. I found that extremely helpful to see how they went about their execution of their moves, and how they were pre-fight or during the fight. Now that might not be for everybody, because everybody's different and everyone calls upon different resources, but those were kind of good mental pictures for me of how I wanted to compete. So I think finding guys that you look up to, and finding guys that are the best at their fields, and seeing what their execution is like, and if you tend to vibe with that particular fighter, be like, okay, well, how do they do that? What is their mode of
Mhm.
operation? How do they move? How composed are they? And I also relate it back to, and this is something I tell my students a lot, is if you think about your first jujitsu class ever, your typical first day one guy that comes in, they are typically tense, nervous,
Yeah.
utilizing a lot of muscular strength. They're holding their breath. They're spazzing around. They're not pacing themselves. They're exhausted in 30 seconds. All right. We're all like that. Well, many of us anyway, right? I always think, okay, if that's day one, if then then we should be running so far away from that person. That should be the goal, right? It's like, how do we become the opposite of that day one person? How do we become calm, the opposite of tense and spazzy? How do we become technical, the knowledgeable, the opposite of perhaps ignorant and not having any information? How do we become so doing that, I think, helps give us, like, I think that's what I consider visualization, is like getting that mental picture of how I want to operate as a martial artist.